Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. What's happening over there? What's going on?
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Mank.
Mank.
Mank. I like Mank.
Mank.
Mank? It's Orson Welles.
Of course it is.
I think it's time we talked. Ready and willing to hunt a great white whale?
Just call me Ahab.
Tell the story you know.
I hear you're hunting dangerous game.
This is different. This is about something.
I've put up with your suicidal drinking, your compulsive gambling, your silly platonic affairs.
I gave you a second chance.
How wealth and influence can crush a man.
Are you hoping I might absolve you of such a personal betrayal?
You made yourself court jester.
Nobody makes a monkey out of William Randolph Hearst.
You pick a fight with Willie, you are finished.
Mank. Mr. Mankowitz.
This is on the Netflix.
It is. It's on the Flicks.
So if you got the Flicks, you can watch it. Mm-hmm. This is directed by David Fincher.
It sure is.
It is written by his father, his late father.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it in VR.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like a Netflix, like it simulates watching a movie. So like you're sitting on a couch in VR,
mm-hmm.
watching it.
Yeah, sure.
So I sat on my couch in front of my TV.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Put on the VR
mm-hmm.
to simulate this. What'd you think of Mank?
I really liked it. Thought it was good.
Me too. Me as well.
Also.
So, what's the backstory here? This is about
Herman Mankiewicz.
Citizen Kane.
Yeah, writing Citizen Kane, which he originally did on contract for the theater. I think that Orson. I forget the name of the theater. It's whatever theater Orson Welles was famous for being a part of. The Mercury Theater.
Yeah.
And then after it was written, he was like, you know what? I want the credit. And that conflict is actually only about 3 minutes of the movie.
I was about to say, what I had thought this movie was about was that conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But Orson Welles is not a major character in this film.
No, and he only shows up in about 3 scenes. And when Mank finally tells him, it's like, look, I want credit, they yell at each other for a minute, and then he just relents. He's like, fine, you have the credit. And just leaves. It's not really that big. The film is mostly concerned with the context. Why he wrote Citizen Kane. Yeah.
Because I haven't seen Citizen Kane in a minute.
It's been over a decade. Yeah, I watched it with Marina, who has never seen it. And that didn't really affect her enjoyment of the movie. But now we definitely have to watch it. Like you can not have seen Citizen Kane or not have seen it in a long time and still watch this movie and follow it.
Yeah, of course.
But
it helps for context.
Knowing
Citizen
what it's
Kane
about, yeah.
helps. It's weird because it's considered one of the best movies. It's also like a takedown.
It is.
And so I don't know. It's interesting because it's seen as like, somewhat controversial at the time. It was, based off of William Randolph Hearst. And like it's someone that we don't really give a shit about anymore.
Right, because you got to remember, like, I think the biggest thing about this movie for me, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about how good it is. Because it's great. It's a Fincher movie. But there's a lot, this movie gave me a lot of the context that I just didn't know. Like, I knew it was about Hearst, and I was about the end of it. And that's because, the events leading up to the writing of Citizen Kane happened damn near 100 years ago. So
right. And
it's like, it is long. It would be like releasing Fahrenheit 9/11. It'd be like watching that movie like 100 years from now, or something like that. Something that's directly related to what's going on in the zeitgeist at the time. Like
the difference being, the difference being that Citizen Kane is a more universal story.
Yes, yeah, it's King Lear.
Yeah, and that's why we look back at that film. Like this, Mank isn't about why it's good. Or like him, like there's these fleeting moments of him being like, it's the best thing I ever written, and other people being like, yeah, it's the best thing you ever written. But in terms of like talking about the quality of the film, that's not really in it. They're like, yeah, of course it's the best thing you ever written, but we're all worried. You know?
You're gonna blow yourself up by putting this movie out there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He does.
And it what I think my favorite thing about this movie is Mank is just a very self-destructive person, because when you go through the film, his reasons behind it, it's like political anger. It's anger at what the principles of what they did.
He's mad about a couple of things. He's mad that it's in the Depression and they didn't vote for Upton Sinclair, who would have tried to introduce some socialist policies to help all the people, like, you know, Dust Bowl people and everything. The people who were just fucking devastated during the Depression.
This movie is politically relevant without really needing to be. This could have come out at any point.
Yeah,
it just happens to also feel very familiar,
and it's also it's because he is friends with Hearst, and Hearst. It really comes to light, and there's this. The climax is actually two scenes that it cuts between, one in flashback and one in current, when he's arguing with Orson Welles. And the flashback one is when he's at a dinner at Hearst's house. It's a costume party that's circus themed, and Hearst is appropriately dressed as the ringleader.
Yeah,
that was not lost on me.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty on the nose.
Pretty on the nose, David Fincher.
Yeah.
But during that scene, he shows up just fucking housed,
hilariously
just
drunk.
So shit-faced, and starts pitching his idea for a movie it's a nascent version of Citizen Kane, but it's based on the fact that he's friends with Hearst, and Hearst started out as someone who could have been a revolutionary, like a revolutionary figure. Like he could have done a lot of good. And instead he doesn't. He goes the opposite way and becomes embedded in wealth and power, and only is interested in holding on to those things. And that's Citizen Kane.
Right. It's the fucking sled. It's the sled.
Yeah, it's the sled. It's born more of, and at the end of it, his guests leave one by one until it's just Mank and Hearst in there. And Hearst comes up to him and to walk him out. And when he comes up to him, like Mank says, that was said more out of sorrow than anger.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a key component of, because it is a takedown, but it's also like a lament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that scene, they make Mank pathetic. I mean, the guests leave one by one, and then very suddenly when he vomits on the floor.
Yeah.
Which is a delightful punctuation.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's it's weird because he's a success according to history, but they do that thing where he's just a very sad guy in the film, and he's just kind of bitter.
Yeah.
And he's a little spiteful.
Yeah, he's part of a system that Mank himself is very left-wing, but he's in an extremely conservative system, Hollywood in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
And they're using their considerable wealth and power to thwart Upton Sinclair and people like him. This just, they make this propaganda film that one of his friends ends up shooting himself over because he feels so guilty.
Yeah, the values are very quaint in the sense that, like, Mank accidentally suggests propaganda to them.
Yeah.
Because they're asking why he hasn't given donations to fund the political push against the socialist And
we got to mention real quick that Upton Sinclair, he's only in the movie briefly, but he is played by Bill Nye.
Is that Bill Nye?
It's the science guy.
That's the science guy?
Yep.
That's got to be saying something.
You only see him from afar.
That's very funny. It's very strange.
No, it makes sense to me if you think about it. Think about the year 2020.
No, that's saying something very specific. That's like we want someone representing science for this. That's great.
Yeah.
And so like when he sees the propaganda, and the propaganda is like par for the course now.
Yeah, it's just a political ad that you would see today.
Yeah, and they have some actors in it, and it's devastating. He's like, don't do this. You can't do this. And he's devastated that he would be a part of it. And like you said, someone fucking shoots themselves over it.
It's his friend who got to direct the thing. And so he did because he was like an editor for a long time, and they gave him the chance to direct it. So he did, and he didn't really think, he's just like, well, I get to direct. And when they're in the scene when they're talking about it, he says to Mank, he's like, well, this nobody's gonna believe this, right? And Mank's like, they will believe whatever you put on the screen.
Right. Particularly like they'll believe that, King Kong is 4 stories tall and whatnot. Like they
it's you gotta remember there's no TV yet. So this they would just put this in as like a newsreel.
Right, we
before
weren't
the
used
movie.
to being lied to.
Exactly. So like this would have even more devastating of an effect back then, because if you put it up on screen as a newsreel before a movie, people are just going to think it's true.
Right, and you can see this as like, I'm sure there were other similar things that happened before this.
Of course.
But you can see this as like the road to the problems where we are today, you know?
Yeah, and they do a couple of...
why
they do mention Goebbels a couple of times.
Yeah, that's why Mank he's not wrong. He should be this upset. It's just funny watching it now as like a cynical person now.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, just you wait.
Yeah, I mean, we're 80 years removed from that.
Exactly.
This is 80 years in the future. I mean, yes, he is correct that this is very bad.
Right. I'm wondering if this will actually resonate with people because of the perspective we have now. If people don't realize how horrible it was, I think they will. I think this movie is directed towards very specific people, though.
Yes.
Politically, and showing like, this is how it snowballed. You know, this is the tiny little snowball rolling down the hill. And like, I think a lot of people aren't going to see how devastating that is. And
it's because, and this film does a good job of it, but there's some stuff it leaves out. It's just because of, you have to understand all of the context of the time.
Right.
And how media wasn't a 24-hour thing back then.
Right. So that's like the meat, right? The meat of the story is Mank starts out as like in his flashbacks, he's a screenwriter. He gets involved with, Hearst
through Marion Davies.
Yeah. And like is kind of like a friend of the family, and
they're friends. Yeah, I really liked the friendship between him and Marion Davies. I thought that was.
It was great.
Amanda Seyfried plays Marion Davies, and she's great in this movie.
The conflict, they sum it up because this is a surprisingly low conflict movie.
It really is.
Well, in terms of how the people are interacting, they're civil, but there is big conflict surrounding it. But it shows like this is the version of events that I also believe more with this stuff, is that whenever we hear about like big beefs between famous people, I feel like it always gets exaggerated for the public, right? Like the part at the end when him and Orson Welles, he like does a jab at Orson Welles in his acceptance speech.
Well, and Welles did one at him too.
Yeah, exactly.
He said he can kiss my half, and then Mank says, what does he say? The best thing about winning an award for the screenplay of Citizen. What was he say? The best thing about sharing this award for Citizen Kane with Orson Welles is that he wasn't in the room when it was written. Like something like that.
It's something he says he accepts the reward like it was written without Orson Welles or something like that. like because he's alone.
Right, that's right. Yeah, I'll accept this award the same way that that Citizen Kane was written with Orson Welles not in the room. That's what he says.
Yeah.
It's more of that. Like, that's the beef. It's just them needling each other in public. Like, in private, like we mentioned, it's like a 2-minute altercation.
Right. And then it ends. I love how it's punctuated with Orson Welles breaking something and him being like, "Oh, that'd be good for the movie." And Orson Welles is like, "Yeah, probably."
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like they're still thinking about the movie.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately, like, yeah, you know, you can say a lot of things about Orson Welles, but, like, ultimately, like, they're both in the business of, they're both on the creative side of movie making.
Yeah.
So they're both thinking about what's going to be best for the movie.
Right.
So yeah, he fucking breaks his case. He's like, oh yeah, that should happen between her and Kane in Act 3. Yeah, Orson's like, yeah, it's probably a good idea. And then he storms out.
That's great. But ultimately, it's about someone who enters the studio system, or we see him early in the studio system.
Yeah, he's been in the studio system.
It's a very cynical system.
Yeah.
They don't really give a shit. That first discussion of a movie where they like throw it to the new guy to like just make up an ending.
It's just like a terrible Frankenstein ripoff too.
Yeah. And they keep saying, but it means something. It has a meaning. And there's all these like empty statements about like you gotta write stuff that goes after my heart and all that junk, and they're making just bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's about someone with like, it seems like a history of that, finding a story that he actually gives a shit about. And then like finally being like, I want credit for this. It's not the him wanting credit is not the
it does not come into play until the last struggle. Scene. Yeah.
No, but it is the climax, because that's what it all comes to, is the realization of like, this is too personal. This is my life's work. I need my name on it. And Orson Welles, when he gets upset, he's not like, again, like you said, like he understands.
Yeah.
He's mad, but he's like, yeah, okay.
He's like, fine. He relents pretty quickly. He's more pissed that he's breaking contract.
Right. And the things they gloss over are like, the actual writing process is fairly anticlimactic.
Yeah, we don't really see much of it because it's not.
No.
We have to see. That's not. Like we said, the movie is not about how good Citizen Kane is, or even really the making of Citizen Kane. It's about the why.
Right.
Which I think makes this better for me than most movies about movies.
Yes,
because it's not really about the making of a movie at all.
That's the thing, is that this will probably be nominated, right?
It's going to be nominated for a ton of things. Yeah, if it doesn't,
they're going to be up on this.
If it doesn't win sound design, I'm going to throw somebody out a window.
Oh yeah, we haven't even mentioned this whole thing is not. I won't say perfectly, but like it's made like an old movie.
Yeah, and I
would say the cinematography is a little more modern.
Mm-hmm. But like,
because it's Fincher.
Yeah. Who? Eric Messerschmidt. I don't know him. Let me click on him and see what he filmed. But like the sound design, when I think some of the first lines are delivered by Lily Collins, who plays his. He's dictating the screenplay to her.
Yeah.
So his assistant, I guess. But like as soon as that first bit of dialogue comes in, it's got that.
It's got the old-timey tinniness.
It's got the old-timey tinniness, yeah. And I think the difference is they used to record all sound on via one source. I can't remember what produces that sound, but it sounds like the kind of the tinny, kind of poppy dialogue in a quality in an old movie. And like the whole film sounds like that. And it's amazing. It's like, how did you do that? And then the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is... First of all, great. I think it's nonstop. I don't think there's a single moment in the movie that doesn't have music.
Yeah. It's very classic Hollywood. It would have been funny if it was like...
extremely classic Hollywood, yeah.
It'd be funny if it was like the Social Network soundtrack, like techno.
Yeah, it's all techno.
Like dark.
It's just the downward spiral. But yeah, it was so extreme. Like I knew they were scoring the movie.
Yeah.
But I kind of forgot. And as I'm watching the opening credits, as it's the shot of this... car driving to Victorville, which is where the movie takes place and is where I currently live.
Yep. That must have been a delight. That car crash, by the way, is hilarious.
It's so good.
Because the beginning of the movie, he gets in a car accident, and so he's in a cast for making Citizen Kane. But again, the car accident also feels like it's not the story, so it's almost like a throwaway gag where the guy's like reading a letter that someone, like a woman, wrote to him to be like, do you think she likes me?
Yeah.
And then he's like, watch the road. And he's like, here, check out the letter. and then they crash.
Yeah. And his arm is just in a sling, and like Mank is getting lifted out of the car by a fucking tow truck.
And what does he say? He says something like, "So do you think she likes me?"
Something like it. He asks him about the letter again as he's getting lifted out of the car.
It's one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I know this absolutely didn't happen, but I like how it's being treated.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they just saw like. They looked into his history and it was like, oh, he had gotten in a car accident. Okay.
Yeah, we're
like, that's it.
Somebody else driving or whatever.
Yeah. And they make it just a delightful car accident.
But what I was going to say is the opening music is so old Hollywood that like when Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's names popped up on screen, I was like, oh shit, that's right.
Yeah, well, it really speaks to their talent because I think a lot of movies or a lot of composers, I feel like they sort of the most famous ones, like if you have Danny Elfman, right? They have, you know what you're gonna get.
John Williams, Hans Zimmer, they have a thing and they do that thing.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see a composer fit the movie instead.
Yeah, instead of vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah, and be like, no, we'll do the thing you want. And so
and it was more. I guess it was more of a surprise for me because the scores for The Social Network and Gone Girl are both good, but they're also very similar.
Right. That's why it's a surprise because it's like, oh, okay, so he wasn't just picking them because they're appropriate. Mm-hmm. He's just picking them because they're
good.
Or, yeah. It might also be their desire to like do something different too, because I'm sure this was a blast to do the score for.
Yeah, to come up with old Hollywood themes and stuff.
Yeah, in general, this feels like a blast to act in, to shoot, because it's just they're doing old Hollywood stuff. But
yeah, I know. Collider did an interview with Amanda Seyfried, and I know that last dinner scene they filmed for like 5 days.
Yeah, well,
because he's David Fincher.
If there was ever a scene to film for 5 days,
yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But like she doesn't have any lines in that scene, but she has to be there,
right?
Because there's a couple of important looks and stuff involving her during that sequence.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of fun. She just talked about having to do take after take of that scene for an entire week, and she doesn't have any lines. She's just sitting there.
Right, but it is important. Yeah. That's what. All right, the couple lost threads. Their relationship. The thing that I really loved, because you do think there's going to be drama there,
but there's just not.
And then they meet, and she's like, I read the screenplay. And you know, she says like, yeah, you got some things right about him, and she's talking to him as a friend,
mm-hmm.
and he says something like, if this comes out, I'm afraid you won't forgive me. And then she says, if it doesn't come out, I'm afraid you won't forgive me. And that's how they kind of end it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, it's a great like friendship that they establish where like he's writing about something very personal in her life. And he knows she knows he doesn't even have to explain it. He's like, the character in there is not you. Like, it's not you. It's how the public might perceive you, but it's not you. And he barely has to even explain that.
Mm-hmm. Like, she even says, I would have loved to play myself 10 years ago.
Yeah. I like it when movies forego the obvious dramas that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it creates a lot of moments and stretches that don't have that much drama, because it's not really what the movie's about.
No, it was a surprisingly, like we said, it's like a low conflict movie, which is weird to think about when it's a movie about an extremely self-destructive man.
Well, because
writing a movie that's
but it's just so focused on what it wants to say,
mm-hmm.
that it didn't need all that. And going back to it winning awards, like if it had done the obvious thing, it still probably would have been nominated because the Academy Awards love rewarding movies about making movies and about white people saving racism. Those two subjects they're really into.
Yeah, solving racism, not saving it.
solving, whatever.
Saving racism.
No difference. those two words in that context, no difference. But what makes this in a way not a movie about making movies is that all the making movie stuff is treated as like a background joke almost. It gives you a feel for the mood, but it's really just about an artist finding something that actually matters to them for the first time late in their life.
Yeah. Not even that. That's one thing I can say against the film is that Gary Oldman is too old, man.
He says like I'm 40. I think
Gary Oldman's like 65.
Yeah. I mean, looking at a picture of the real Mank, and yeah, he's younger. But like all the drinking, I was like, sure.
Yeah, sure. That could age a guy.
All right. I have one criticism of the film. When you use a typewriter and you press enter, the text doesn't go down; it goes up. Right?
What?
Right? Like when you're typing, right?
Yeah.
And you hit enter, the text you just typed goes up.
Correct.
It goes ching up. In this, whenever they do the slug lines to establish the scenes, they hit the enter button and the text goes down in the graphic.
Does it?
Yeah. I'm sure it looked better, and I'm sure they knew this, but like it wouldn't go down, it would go up. It would go up in the shot.
Is that right? I don't think that's right.
Why wouldn't it be right?
No, I don't remember it going down.
Oh, I remember it going down because it's my only note in the film.
Okay. Well, then
it's just like, I'll watch it again. I don't know if my brain tricked myself or VR things are going in different directions. All I know is I said several times in the film, like, that's not right, is it? The text going down? Obviously, this isn't an actual criticism with the film. It was a visual choice and it doesn't matter. But, yeah, that's it. That's my only critique of the film. I want to know how much of this... I want to know, because this was written by his dad. And his dad's not a screenwriter, is he?
No, not that I know of.
Maybe he was aspiring. The fact that it was... I mean, I assume he was aspiring, considering that he wrote a screenplay. I think that's cool. Like, that's a cool significance to this film.
Oh, he was a screenwriter. Okay.
This was just the thing he couldn't get made?
It says... He was a screenwriter and journalist who wrote for magazines and periodicals. He was chief of Life magazine.
He wasn't hurting.
He wrote a Howard Hughes biopic that got merged into The Aviator.
Oof.
Yeah, and he wrote Mank like a long ass time ago. Like Fincher was gonna make Mank after The Game in the 90s.
Right.
And it just didn't have, like, he's been trying to get this thing made for a long time.
Gary Oldman would have been the right age.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a cool like meta commentary there.
Yeah,
I guess. Also, I don't care that Gary Oldman's too old. He's killing it.
He is. It makes some scenes a little strange, or it gives him a different context than it maybe is supposed to have.
Right, because it feels like it's important to note that he was younger, and then he just never wrote anything for the rest of his life. It's not like someone who is. Being 60 isn't too old to write. It's not someone who's at that point in their life. It's two different points in someone's life.
In the flashback scenes in the 30s, like Mank is supposed to be in his 30s.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Like he wrote Citizen Kane when he was like 40 or 41.
Right. They're not even. I mean, it just feels like they're just like whatever.
Yeah, it's like the Always Sunny episode when it flashes back to Danny DeVito as a teenager, and it's just Danny DeVito in a wig.
Yeah, because I'm sure it was just like, look, it's Gary Oldman. He's killing it.
Yeah,
we'll pretend it's not that.
Look, can Charles Dance doing an American accent? I've never heard him do an American accent before.
Charles Dance, he's not in it much as Hearst, but he's great.
Yeah,
the dinner scene, he's just watching him and smirking. Which I thought was great.
He doesn't react until the end. That's such a good scene because you have like the. Louis Mayer, who's played by Arliss Howard, who you may remember gets eaten by tyrannosaurs in The Lost World.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's the Weasley.
That is.
He's Hammond's Weasley nephew in the Lost World.
Yeah, that's he gets eaten by the baby T-Rex while the mama T-Rex watches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but he's the head of, well, not the head of. He's one of the people that runs MGM, and he's just such a Hearst sycophant.
Yeah,
that when Mank is doing his speech, Mayer is the one who's like, "How dare you!" and blustering and stuff. But Hearst doesn't react the entire speech. He just watches him.
Yeah.
And it's a really, even though, again, he doesn't say anything in that scene until the very end when he tells him a story about the organ grinder's monkey, which was also fucking really kills it. It's a really good performance, and it's just him sitting there.
The implications seem that, like, he doesn't care that much, right? Like, that's the thing, is that Citizen Kane, the movie, didn't really take him down.
No.
It might have pissed him off.
Yeah.
But of course, it's forever tied with his name, you know? And that's part of what the movie's about too, is that's the realization when the propaganda, where it's like, oh yeah, it matters. The stories we tell matter. And they will actually, they don't change the world. Like, it's kind of cool because it is a movie about making movies. And it's a movie, it is like Hollywood kind of patting itself on the back, but not really that. It's showing just how much the stories we tell matters, especially then when people would actually believe stuff, and being able to spin things, and just media in general, how much that matters. Because it's him using their weapon against them.
Yeah.
Essentially. It's him thinking about how they won this election using these fake newsreels. And so he's like, well, I don't have the only thing I can do is right. So that's how I'm going to,
how
I will fight back.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it like, there's no afterthought about how much it took him down or anything like that, because again, it doesn't feel like the main point.
No.
It's actually just about this person as a writer.
Yeah, and they do a lot to parallel him with Upton Sinclair, who ultimately never held office, but
yeah,
the shit he wrote is very important.
Yeah. He
wrote The Jungle. He also wrote There Will Be Blood.
Really?
Yeah, he wrote the book Oil, I think, that it's based on.
No shit. That's weird. But yeah, I think that's why this movie doesn't piss me off in that terms, because it's so focused, and it's peppered with, because one of the questions on my mind when I started watching this, I was like, how is this going to be interesting? It was a very fleeting question, because it was immediately answered with, oh, the dialogue's delightful. And the scenes are just delightful. Like, because not that much happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But like the scenes where Gary Oldman's just like bedridden, just like sneaking alcohol in, dealing with his assistant nurse.
Yeah.
And she has the whole thing about her husband in war.
Yeah.
And there's just so, you like all the characters, you like the performances, so you're never like, I was never bored from this film.
No, it's an extremely likable movie, which again,
low conflict, not much happening.
Yeah, it's like unexpectedly light. Like there are moments in it where you're like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like when his friend shoots himself. But
if it wasn't for the cinematography, it wouldn't feel like a Fincher film. And even the cinematography isn't that much of a Fincher film.
Because he's doing it deliberately to mimic movies at the time, so it doesn't really feel like a Fincher film. Yeah,
it feels like, it's weird. It feels a little too good. But not that much good, not much better for films of the time. You know, it's in like widescreen. The aspect ratio then was, tighter.
Yeah.
Some of the shots felt a little too complicated. Because
there's
not that much more,
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, there's it's little things, and I'm sure someone who knows film history better than me might be like, no, you're wrong. I'm more talking about my impression of the film. It felt like there was like a few too many crane shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A few, like, I don't know. It's fine.
There's one shot where he walks up to Hearst during the filming of the movie, where Hearst is on like a little cart. And then they start, the camera kind of goes into place in front of them, and then starts tracking them as they move towards camera.
Right.
That's a little more dynamic than things at the time.
Of course, a movie like, say, Citizen Kane had banging.
Yeah, it's got crazy. And I think that's what it was
like
going
they weren't
for.
Able to, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It's more like a movie. If a movie like this existed back then, I feel like it would be shot in a simpler way. I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's mostly, again, just people talking in a room. Yeah, I don't know. And of course, like, you can't expect him. He shot this on the Sony Red. You can't expect him to not use the technology of today. I think they did a very good job. Because most of the shots are framed. They remind me of old movies. Stuff like the car accident shot, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's fucking terrific.
Yeah, it's a good-ass movie, man.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly, like... I think what also makes it not Fincher-like is it's light, like you said.
Yeah, it's weirdly...
Emotionally speaking.
Yeah, it's like not...
Well, that's because his dad wrote it, probably.
Yeah, it's not like devastating or like super dark. Like man, like if you think his last movie was Gone Girl.
Right.
And Gone Girl's a heavy-ass movie.
Yeah. I love David Fincher, but he makes a lot of weird, stupid bullshit that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck is Gone Girl? What the fuck was that?
It's a great movie, but holy shit.
Yeah. But it's a bunch of weird, stupid bullshit. Like, I guess Fincher doesn't make dramas, really. He doesn't make Academy Award pictures. He makes, like, cool thrillers. He makes them very well.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't make, like, movies just about people.
Well... No, that's true. I was gonna say Benjamin Button, but I was like, that's some fantastical bullshit. That definitely falls into the category of weird, stupid bullshit.
He makes movies about people who turn out to be imaginary people, or people who turn out to be running from aliens.
Running from aliens?
Well, one alien, just one alien.
Yeah.
Or people who are Michael Douglas in the game.
People who are Michael Douglas in the game.
Yeah,
people who fall through a skylight into their birthday party.
He makes good movies, but they're often like twisty movies. They're often movies where you're like The Game is a movie where if you watch it more than once, you're like, I still love this, but this shit doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's he doesn't. I'm trying to think of what his like simplest movie is that wasn't this. I guess The Social Network.
Probably The Social Network. The Social Network is the most straightforward drama, I think.
Right, and he still makes them all like he's David fucking Fincher.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've seen him be like, I'm going to make a very specific type of movie with a very specific style. It's like Trent Reznor and what's his face?
Atticus Ross,
yeah, it's the same as the music. It's like we have a very specific style we're known for. We're going to do this other thing that you'd never expect us to do. And that's cool.
And that's cool.
It's cool. Like a David Fincher film.
Yeah.
Like Panic Room. Yeah, he made Panic Room.
He did make Panic Room. You know the last David Fincher movie Charles Dance was in before this?
Was it Panic Room?
It's Alien 3, baby.
Oh my God, you're right. Okay, all right. If David Fincher retires after this, that would be amazing. He's like, I got a dance sandwich. And that's all I wanted.
I came full circle on Dance.
That must have been incredible. That's like going back to your high school after your success and seeing the teachers. Because I'm sure Charles Dance in Alien 3 was like, geez, this poor guy.
Yeah, this is
because that was a nightmare to make. Yeah. And now David Fincher comes back like, yeah, I'm doing Hollywood stuff. Serious stuff.
Comes back in the room snapping his fingers.
this is
jazzing his way in there.
Some of the stuff they do address in this is like the studio during the Depression having no money and talking about the future of film. And again, it's not celebratory. It all feels so like vaguely relevant because came out on Netflix, you know? Mm-hmm. And so like the future of the film industry currently is in peril. And I don't think he meant, or sorry, like film industry as in like big theatrical releases.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think Fincher meant for this movie to be necessarily so relevant. I don't know when this went into production, but it was probably, pre-pandemic. But I mean, we've been talking about all this stuff for a while too.
July 2019.
Yeah. It just like it works because all those ideas are floating around in this, or that vibe of like golden age of Hollywood, using communism to scare people away from socialist ideas, using propaganda in the media, rich people being, rich people.
Mm-hmm. It's not
all like,
it's not a flattering view of Hollywood.
Well, yeah, not really.
Not
and
really.
It's also, it's just all like feels relevant, but it isn't so on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
They never have like big in your face moments. I think there was a couple moments that I was like, all right, settle down. And that was when he was like sitting down. He's like, I'll tell you, that Wizard of Oz movie sounds like a real flop. And it's like, all right, settle down, Mank. And the Hitler scene, but again, it didn't feel wrong for the time. Mm-hmm. Like it felt like, that would be conversations because they're sitting around talking about Hitler as a very unserious person, unserious, and like about how he's not that much of a threat, and it's like, oh geez, which felt a little bit on the nose,
a little bit, yeah. And to the film's credit, Mank did work on the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like a random like the Picasso scene in Titanic.
Oh my God, the Picasso scene in Titanic.
Yeah.
Picasso, never heard of him.
Probably wouldn't amount to anything.
Looks
anything.
Right. I'm Billy Zane.
Looks right into the camera.
I'm Billy Zane. Wrong man, Billy Zane.
That's what they call me, Billy the incorrect man Zane.
Yeah, but it's not a flattering look at Hollywood. It's also not a flattering look at writers, at Mank, because again, it feels like he's not like heroic. He's also not a villain. He's just sort of bitter and sad. He's
mildly heroic in that he's principled.
Yes, I think it's it might be the way Gary Oldman plays him and like handles himself. He's like kind of a pathetic. Like his posture, and like the way he talks to people.
He's a guy, just on sort of teetering on the razor's edge of self-defeat.
Yeah, and like again, it's not like they don't show this like big inspirational moments.
No,
or like he's doing it, he's writing it. It's like a lot of. I loved how they showed the writing process because most of it is them being like, look, you only got like 13 more days and you've only written 60 pages. And then hard cut to, wow, you wrote 300 pages in 13 days. And it's like, that's writing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a lot of people telling them, look, you got to get on this. You got to get on this. And then they just cut over it. And it's like, wow, you did it.
Yeah. Like, you turned in a fucking 350-page screenplay.
Wrote 200 pages last night. Like, they show, like, the procrastination and the alcoholism and that it's just a lot of people bothering him. And he doesn't think of it as anything special until he's written it. And then he's like, I think this might be the best thing I've written.
Yeah.
Shit.
I found a fun story where the real life Mankiewicz, there were certain kinds, even though he worked during the studio system, which if listeners aren't familiar, that is essentially they would just hire a stable of writers and you would just write whatever they gave you to write.
Yeah.
Mankiewicz there were certain kinds of movies he wouldn't do. They gave him a Rin Tin Tin movie, which is the movie, the hero dog or whatever. So he wrote a script where the dog, the movie ends with a house catching on fire and Rin Tin Tin carrying a baby inside the flaming house.
inside of it?
Yeah, he carries a baby into the fire.
That sounds delightful.
Like he just wrote this "fuck you" version of a Rin Tin Tin screenplay.
Oh, that's so good.
Because he didn't want to do it.
That's incredible.
I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
Yeah,
I just read that the character Rita Alexander, who is
Lily Collins, his assistant.
Lily Collins. Yeah, that's who. Wait, Susan Alexander Kane gets her name in the movie Citizen Kane. That's where the name came from.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny for me because, again, from a writing perspective, he probably just looked up and saw her and he was like, "There we go."
Yeah, pretty much.
I really like how unmystical writing is in this.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the first scene he's writing about Kane having a memory of being on a boat, and Lily Collins is like, is that from the Mankiewicz vault? Like, meaning, is that your own memory? And he's like, yeah, probably. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, it's so, yeah, you're right. It really is demystifying.
Right.
He's just writing.
It's not trying to make it this big magical thing that he did.
No, he just did it.
Yeah.
He did it while laying in bed on a farm in Victorville.
Yeah. Just yelling lines to his assistant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mank, man.
Fucking Mank. Mank, bro.
Mank. Who played? I was going to say who played Citizen Kane. Who played Orson Welles?
An actor I didn't recognize.
We just saw him in something. I think his name is Tom Burke.
Tom Burke, yeah.
Oh man, he was. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to let people have to listen to me googling this guy and trying to remember.
I don't know,
what
man. He was in a Dragonheart movie in 2000.
He doesn't have much of it. He was in a movie called Donkey Punch in 2008.
Oh, that's too
I'm
bad.
going to go ahead and click on that.
That's too bad.
Oh no, it's even worse than you think. It looks like a horror film. What is this? What's going on?
I don't know. He's apparently on The Crown.
Okay. Donkey Punch is a British horror thriller with the tagline "This party has gone overboard," with a picture of a boat engine that's bloody.
Huh.
It takes place on a yacht. It involves the sex act called a donkey punch. And I'm not going to read the synopsis past that because I don't want to.
That's enough of that journey.
Anyway, this guy got to play Orson Welles.
He sure did.
Yeah, he's doing good. It's a good Orson Welles. They're not just doing an Orson Welles impression.
No, although the voice is pretty close, so I'm wondering if he's dubbed in some scenes or if he's just really good at doing Orson Welles.
I don't know. He's not Vincent D'Onofrio and Ed Wood, although that's terrific.
Yeah, and that's being dubbed.
Yeah,
that's dubbed by.
And
that's Vincent D'Onofrio's voice. For people who don't know, in Ed Wood, he briefly appears as Orson Welles, and his voice is dubbed by Maurice LaMarche, who plays the Brain on Pinky and the Brain.
Perfect.
And the voice he does for the Brain is Orson Welles.
Yeah. And that's supposed to be a straight up parody. Like Ed Wood is supposed to be that tone.
Yes, yeah. Ed Wood is great.
They want Orson Welles to just be Orson Welles. Yeah, Ed Wood is terrific.
Yeah, great.
I feel like Ed Wood and Mank are like
they're not dissimilar.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not dissimilar.
They feel. I mean, it's because they're shot like an old timey Hollywood movie.
Yeah. And the lead character is kind of this broken dude who's, I don't know.
They're good. Yeah, they're good films to compare because Tim Burton is clearly trying to cast aside the Tim Burton style, the way David Fincher is in this, to make it old timey Hollywood. But I don't think Tim Burton did it as well. I mean, Ed Wood's a great film.
Well,
but it feels like a Tim Burton film.
Ed Wood is also he's trying to film it like an Ed Wood film.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It's one of his best movies.
It's such a good movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mank.
Check it out.
Check it out
on Netflix. it's surprisingly it's weird. It's I don't want to say it's not intense or I don't want to say it's low conflict, but it's a easy watch, I guess is the way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's the easiest watch of all the David Fincher films for sure, except for Panic Room. But that's just because that movie doesn't matter.
Yeah. Who cares? It's just a thriller.
Yeah, you see Jared Leto with cornrows, and you're like, I'm not going to emotionally commit to any of this.
Yeah. The terrifying villain in that film is Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts?
No, man.
Well, thanks for listening, folks. Yeah. I feel like this podcast was us just talking about how much we liked a movie, but
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sure.
You should check out our Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. That's for $5 a month. You get both of those podcasts a week, exclusive on our Patreon. We have other tiers, like one where you watch movies with us every Friday night.
Do it.
What did we watch? What did we just watch?
Well, we watched Tim Burton's Mars Attacks.
We sure did.
We also watched
delightful.
the Keanu Reeves film Replicas and
less delightful.
The Sixth Day, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. So, a bunch of great films.
Yeah.
Equally great films.
Yeah. Equally quality films.
Yeah.
We also have a store at tpublic.com/store/gamefullyunemployed. We can get t-shirts, masks, mugs, stickers, all kinds of stuff. Check that out. Do it. I don't know.
No, I do know. You should do it.
You should do that. That's true. Yeah, I don't know why I walked.
It is.
I don't know why I lost confidence in myself partway through that sentence.
It is important that you do this thing.
It is vitally important.
All will be revealed. It's a clue, like in the game. So you go there.
Yeah, this will end with you falling through a skylight into your own birthday party.